Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first event of the Nuasan webinar series, Mind Dive. My name is Joanne Murphy, and I am delighted to host this evening's webinar. I am fascinated by the topics that Dr. Niamh Flynn is going to cover this evening, so I can't wait to hear more. We have Dara and Dr. Flynn waiting in the sidelines for us. But before we get the evening started, we'd love to know where you are tuning in from. We have over 200 people registered to join us tonight, which is absolutely fantastic. So there must be lots of you fascinated with the subject. Please do feel free to pop your location in the chat box for us. Now, this session is being recorded. We will take questions later on throughout the session. You can pop them in the chat box. And at the very end, we'll host a Q&A with Dr. Flynn and with Dara Scott. And more importantly, everybody who sends a message to the chat box will be entered into a draw to win a Nuasan recovery gift set worth €80. So keep those messages coming in. The winner will be announced after the Q&A session. So before we kick off, we're going to have a few quick words from Dara, the founder of Nuasan.
Hi, thanks a million, Joanne. So we're delighted to be able to launch this webinar series this evening. Very excited about today's talk and, of course, our future talks based around Nuasan's ethos of recovery, performance, and feeling great. Nuasan is all about helping people be active and achieving their goals, whether it's about not being sore, recovering quickly, keeping fresh, or just feeling great. We can take care of you. And that's what this series is about too, helping you achieve your goals and feeling great. So it took us 5 years of hard work and collaboration with universities to develop our world-leading natural body care products that really do help support your active lifestyle. So anyone who tries our products love them, and you can see that from the reviews left on our website. We're still a small company, but a very eco-conscious company, and we'd love for you to be part of the team. So if you do want to try out the Nuasan range or get a gift for someone or treat yourself, go to the website and have a look. Don't forget to use the €10 voucher. Just enter the code MINDDIVE. So that's MINDDIVE at the end when you're checking out. And it expires on Sunday, the 5th of June, so don't forget to use it. And that's it, short and sweet. I'm going to hand you back to Joanne so she can introduce you to Niamh, as I think we're all really interested to hear what she has to say.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dara. Now, I think we're going to launch a quick poll. So you have 15 seconds to answer the poll, and then we will get right underway with welcoming our guest speaker for this evening's session. So what do you hope to get out of this webinar? Achieve my goals in sport, achieve success in life, or have a healthy mind and body? Okay, there we go. We'll close the poll and Linda will give us the results later on this evening. I think actually we have the results coming up here in front of me now. So it looks like a healthy mind and body is 68%, achieve my goals in sport 21%, and achieve success in life is 11%. So we must have a lot of very fit and healthy people in the room with us this evening. How many people actually participate in sport would be quite interesting to hear as well. So put that answer into the chat box as well. So without further ado, I'd love to welcome, and I'm delighted to welcome, Dr. Niamh Flynn as the first expert in our webinar series. And she is the mind behind the Mind Dive for tonight's event, a sports and performance psychologist specialising in hypnotherapy of all things, and is based in the Galway Clinic here in Galway City. She has over 20 years experience working with CEOs, COOs, and athletes from a variety of sports to assist them to achieve their full potential. Her area of expertise includes dealing with anxiety, stress management, business performance coaching, confidence, goal setting, and much, much more. Her aim is to help you achieve your goals in the most efficient and fastest way possible. Now, I'm sure lots of you will have questions, so do keep them coming in on the chat button, and we will try to get through as many as possible that we can after Niamh's presentation. So Niamh, it's over to you.
Joanne, thank you very much. And thank you to Nuasan for inviting me to speak about sports psychology this evening. I'm going to save or share the screen here. Lovely. So let's start with an exercise that everybody can participate in. I want you to put your arms out like this for me. Nobody can see you, I don't think. So put your arms out and then close your eyes for a moment. Hands in front of you. Turn your right palm up towards the ceiling. And with your eyes closed, I want you to imagine that you have a rope attached to your right wrist. And imagine you have a string attached to your left wrist. Now on the right wrist, attached to the rope, I want you to imagine a bucket. And into that bucket, I'm putting cement, a lot of cement. And cement can get so heavy. I'm adding water and more cement. Now imagine that string attached to your left wrist and a balloon, a helium balloon attached to it. Think about the color of that balloon. And you know the way helium rises. And that bucket is getting very, very heavy. And the balloon is so light. Now, keep your hands where they are. Open your eyes. And what you'll probably find is that one arm is lower and one arm is higher. And essentially what we're doing is using our imagination to change our physiology. So we haven't mentioned your arms getting heavier or lighter, but because your imagination is so rich, your thoughts have created a physiological reaction. So you can see how very easily your thoughts can affect your physiology. Now, if I hold out this glass of water, imagine how heavy that is, or guess. Some people would say maybe 8 ounces, some might say 12, more, less. It doesn't matter, because the reality is that it doesn't matter how heavy it is if I hold it for a few moments. If I hold on to it for a long time, it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. It's the same with our thoughts. If we have negative thoughts and we let them go, they come in, they go out, they don't really affect us, not mentally, not physically. But if we hold on to them, they can really weigh us down. They can cause memory loss if we hold on to a lot of negative thinking. And there's even some signs to show that there's a higher risk of dementia if somebody is engaged in negative thinking over a long period of time. Now, the good thing is, it's just as easy to think positively. So let's look at our belief systems, because our thoughts shape our belief systems. Have you ever noticed that if you've gone to buy a new car, say a black Audi, did you ever notice that you see them then everywhere? You see them when you're going to the shops, when you're going to work, when you're home from work, they seem to be everywhere. Now, they were always there. It's just that a part of your mind called the reticular activating system has tuned in to what you want. So it's very, very important that you have strong belief systems. And those belief systems are the foundation of our attitudes, our thinking, our behaviors, and our performance in sport and in life as well. Someone who had a very powerful belief system was Muhammad Ali. This was his catchphrase, wasn't it? One of many. But he also had 6 guiding principles. And the first was confidence. He believed in himself. He believed in his own ability. Conviction. He believed in following what he thought to be true, irrespective of obstacles and barriers that may have been put in his way. And dedication. Giving full attention to the task. Giving without expecting to receive. Spirituality. A connection with nature. And respect. Respect for self and respect for other people. So we can see how our thoughts have this immense power. We're all familiar with the placebo effect. Now, the nocebo effect is less commonly spoken about, but it's even more powerful than the placebo. Nocebo is Latin for I shall harm. And did you know that if somebody says something negative to you just before a race or a sports performance, that can have a more powerful effect on your physiology, your performance, than conditioning. And it can be years of conditioning. However, if your belief systems are rock solid, it's much easier to throw away the negative remarks and get rid of them. A lot of things will influence how we perform, how we think, and medicine is full of examples. So, cost of medication. Were you aware that more expensive medication seems to work better than less expensive medication? And that colored pills, like orange pills, yellow pills, red pills, have a stimulating effect. Expectation as well. Not just in medicine, but we know if you go to the doctor and they say to you, well, it might work, just take it, try it out, it's much less likely to have a positive effect on you than if they tell you all of the benefits and they strongly believe in it. And it's not just the white coat syndrome. It's our expectations about our own performance in sport as well. If we believe we're going to do well, like Muhammad Ali, the part of the brain called the reticular activating system, again, it's pulling in all the information that's consistent with what we believe in. And it's filtering out all the information that's inconsistent. So for example, if you believe that you're the best in your sport, then you'll start filtering in the information that reminds you how good you are. And it might be something somebody says, or it might be a write-up in the newspaper. It could be something the coach says. And you'll filter out other information that really doesn't match that belief system, anything that's incongruent with it. Unfortunately, some mental blocks will develop for athletes, and most of us will experience mental blocks at some point. And this is due to, well, a variety of different reasons, conditioning being one of the prime suspects. So if we're told that we'll reach a certain level and we can't go any far, or we're not able to do this or not able to do that, if you're told it often enough, it's easy to believe it. And conversely, if you're told that you're very capable and you will be able to do X, Y, and Z, you're going to seek out all of the situations that show that you're able to do X, Y, and Z. Now, fear can be another mental block. And sometimes it's fear of success, fear of failure. And a sports psychologist will usually go through where the mental blocks are developing, and we'll look at how to tackle them as well. Self-protection. Some athletes, after they come back from injury, will find that they're not really engaging 100%. You probably see it with in field sports especially, maybe post-injury, and an athlete has been told by the physio, by the coach, you're fine, you've fully recovered, you've rehab finished, everything's great, but they're not really engaged fully and their performance isn't as good as it was. And it's not just because they might have been lacking in the same training for a couple of weeks. Even after that, when they've caught up from a cardiovascular point of view, from every aspect of fitness, it can be this self-protection because the brain tends to overprotect when something dramatic happens. So that's easy enough change. We just have to go in and change our thinking at a fundamental level, at a subconscious level. And then limiting beliefs. And we've kind of touched on them with conditioning. Limiting beliefs are kind of hard to spot ourselves, but you might hear somebody else say, I'm no good at that, or I'm good at this part, but I'm not so good at that. And again, we have to ask, really, is that true, or is that just a belief system? Sometimes it's true, but sometimes it's a belief system. And remember, if that's your belief system, that part of your brain, the RAS, reticular activating system, is going to narrow your attention to show you everything that proves you're right. So here's the proof mental blocks can be eliminated. Roger Bannister, the first man to run the mile in less than 4 minutes, on the 6th of May in 1954. Now, approximately 6 weeks later, however amazing that was, 6 weeks later, John Landy beat that record. Nobody had beaten it up to then. But what Roger Bannister did, he really challenged people's thinking. And he proved that it was just a mental block. And the same with the Wright brothers. For a long time, nobody believed that anything heavier than air would ever fly. But the Wright brothers knew differently, and they thought differently. And because they were able to think outside those limiting beliefs, now we get to go flying around the world. So overcoming our mental blocks, goal setting, really important. Now it's so simple, and sometimes we just think about it in our minds, but I think it's really important to write things down. I had an athlete come in to me about 4 years ago, and when we looked at what he wanted to achieve, he was playing at a high level. And he said, these are my goals, this is where I am, this is where I want to be. And as the discussion went on, it seemed quite apparent he was capable of much more. Now, he didn't quite believe it. Well, he didn't believe it at all, actually. So when we challenged those belief systems and we set really ambitious goals, he was half looking at me as if I was mad, but part of him really wanted to achieve it. So he kind of went along with it. And I don't remember this, but he reminded me a couple of weeks ago that I had said it. I said, not only will you achieve those, but you'll come back to me in a couple of years and you'll want to achieve more ambitious goals. It had stuck in his head, and he made that a reality. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy, really, for him. And positive self-talk. Now, we hear a lot about positive self-talk as well, don't we? So we all know the benefits. It's going to affect our mood. It'll affect our behavior. And it also affects our performance massively. Now, the key is to be aware of our thoughts. And I'll often find in a session when somebody comes in that a lot is said that people don't really realize they're saying. And all the while typing notes, and suddenly you see this image on the page. And a lot of it's really positive. And if you can find those limiting beliefs, then a lot can change really quickly. But often we're not aware of them ourselves. It takes somebody else to spot them. And it could be a friend that spots it, or you might sit down and have a chat with a colleague or somebody that doesn't even know the sport, and they can identify negative thoughts really quickly. It is hard for ourselves to see them and hear them. Managing expectations. Sometimes they're too low, sometimes they're too high. And it is then to peel back why, and are these expectations realistic? Are they challenging enough? Because remember, if they're not challenging enough, there's very little motivation. I have a good few weight loss clients, and very often people will come in and say, you know, I'd be happy enough at this weight. And they might be, but where's the motivation? So usually I'll ask them, well, where would you really like to be? What's your ideal weight? And then you see their passion, and then you see the excitement about reaching that goal. So there's more motivation and there's more energy and drive behind reaching their goals. Another way to overcome mental blocks is to identify comfort zones. And comfort zones, they're really helpful because we know our limits. We don't want to risk injury. But also we don't want to hold ourselves back. So that really works well when you're doing goal setting, you're looking at comfort zones, you're looking at what's realistic, and then moving beyond that. I think the most important way to overcome mental blocks is to change our belief systems. And first of all, that means identifying them, which is an exercise in itself, but a very good exercise. So what are your belief systems about your sport? I'd be really interested to know. You might want to ask the right questions as well. Just think about any goals that to you seem insurmountable at the moment. And why? Maybe it's realistic, but maybe it's something that you heard and were told. And I'm sure Roger Bannister, like everybody else, had been told that it wasn't possible to run the mile in less than 4 minutes. So what if you changed your thinking? Just think about what you could achieve. And the world's your oyster. Now, we all know there's so many benefits to sport, and sometimes this helps with motivation, both to keep healthy, as the poll suggested, a lot of people are interested in doing. And the list is endless. This is a small synopsis of all of the health benefits. An increase in serotonin, noradrenaline, endorphins. Serotonin helps regulate our mood and our anxiety. And noradrenaline will help us to focus better. And of course, endorphins make us feel better. Physiologically, again, so many benefits. Increased bone density, weight control, you can see there. I suppose I've been working with hypnosis for the last 20 years as a tool for sports psychology. Because when I left university, I really didn't feel like I had any tools that were effective for working with athletes. And when I found hypnosis, it was like I'd been given the biggest gift ever, because I could see the results straight away. The athletes were really happy. I was delighted because it was so fast. It's great because I have no patience, so it suited me down to the ground as well. And it was so useful for so many different things. Now, a lot of people have misconceptions about hypnosis, which we'll look at momentarily. But hypnosis basically is a tool to access your subconscious mind. And if you can imagine, there's your conscious mind, there's your subconscious, and that's where all our belief systems are stored, right down in the subconscious, which is, it's the powerhouse, and it drives everything. So we don't have to think about how to drive. When we learn how to drive, it is stored down in the subconscious mind. But if you go back to when you were learning, it took a lot of attention, it took a lot of concentration, and a lot of mental resources. But when something becomes a pattern, then it moves down to the subconscious. Now, a lot of the time that's really helpful. And sometimes it's not so helpful if it's a bad habit or a negative thought or conditioning. So hypnosis is that tool to get past the conscious mind. There's what we call a hidden observer, well, a security guard almost between the two layers. We push the security guard to one side and then reprogram the subconscious. It's a little bit like putting in a new software program. And it's not as scary as people might think. So if you haven't been hypnotized before, just so that you know, you will wake up from trance. In fact, you're not even asleep. So that's really the wrong term to use, because it's a heightened state of awareness. And we go in and out of trance every single day. If you've ever been on a long journey, for example, and particularly around back roads and small villages and towns, did you ever get to the destination and think, did I pass through that village or did I pass through that town? Now, of course, you were driving safely, because if somebody ran across the road in front of you, you'd stop the car. straight away. So there's always part of your mind that's actively aware and listening and paying attention and watching. You won't tell all your secrets either. So a lot of the time, actually, you won't even speak during hypnosis. There are sessions which use regression and you can talk through different times in life. But generally, particularly for sport, suggestion work is the most common type of hypnosis that will be used. And it's about going into kind of like a daydream. It's different, but it's very similar. Nor will you be quacking like a duck unless you want to. And I guess other people have a fear that they won't be able to go into trance, but we know that we all go into trance. Or if you've ever been involved in a hobby like painting or something that you really, really enjoy, and did you ever notice that time just passes and it's gone? It almost like 2 hours goes and feels like 20 minutes. That's trance. The other fear that people have sometimes is that they won't know what was said. Now, we can give amnesic suggestions, and the reality is that you won't take the amnesic suggestion if you don't want to. So you have complete control during the hypnosis session, and you will be able to hear everything. You might find that you drift in and out during the session, but it's very relaxing, and most people find that it's a nice experience. Their arms and legs get quite heavy or light, very, very light. They might get tingles in their hands and face, and really it doesn't get much weirder than that. It's quite relaxing for most people. So with that, I'm going to hand you back to the lovely Joanne, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Niamh. That was very interesting. We actually have loads of questions coming in. I see Linda is firing some of the questions in that we actually had from people who couldn't make it tonight but did send in their questions. So we do have some questions for Dara as well, but we'll just focus on you for the moment. You mentioned there about the hypnosis. Delve a little bit more into like, how does it actually work then in terms of if we were to do a session with you, Niamh, what would happen?
So first of all, Joanne, we'd have a chat for about half an hour, and I'd establish where you are now, where you want to be, and just general information about your sport, where you're doing well, where you could improve on your strengths and so on. And then when it comes to the hypnosis part, you'll literally just take a seat in a really comfortable chair, close your eyes, and I will talk you through hypnosis. And you don't even have to listen. That's the beauty of it. You can drift off into another world of your own. You'll still take suggestions.
Is it a bit like being like listening to a meditative tape or listening to meditation or something? I want to visualize what it actually would be like to be lying in your rooms in the Galway Clinic having hypnotherapy or hypnosis.
It's very, they're very similar in some ways, but actually meditation is like a meta awareness where we let go of all thoughts. And hypnosis is very much, what do you want? Let's feed it into your brain and off you go. And you'll hear suggestions the whole time during the session that would be really made up from what you've spoken about in the previous half hour. And it would be a story created based on that information. So very personal as well.
Okay. Somebody asks here, just with regards to motivation, tips for motivation to start over after injury or pregnancy, etc. Can hypnosis help? I imagine it can.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And if you enjoyed sport before any of those things happened, so it's so much easier because you can bring somebody back to those feelings, those memories. And in a heightened state of awareness, they become almost like fresh memories again. And also you're going to feed information about why you liked it in the first place. And of course, those neural networks are already there. So it's almost like if you haven't driven for a while and you get back into the car, and at first you're kind of, if it's been a year or so, think, okay, just have to concentrate, but then you don't even have to think about it.
or coming home from a holiday in Spain, picking up your car after 2 weeks, you kind of forget which side of the road to drive on.
Exactly.
You mentioned early on in the presentation about hypnosis being one of the tools that you can use. How powerful is hypnosis in getting peak performance from ourselves in terms of sport or life or whatever it is we want to do, whether it's lose weight, give up smoking, be more active, race well, whatever it is?
It's a really powerful tool, Joanne, because we're dealing with the subconscious mind rather than the conscious mind. The conscious mind deals with logic, while the subconscious mind is really dealing with our belief systems, and they're going to win. The subconscious will win the fight. So even if I can give you an example with weight, is a very easy example to give people, because I think most of us, we either trying to put on weight or lose weight, and there's that struggle in the conscious mind going, I know I shouldn't have it, and the subconscious is going, but you like it, and usually the subconscious will win. Now if you have it, yeah, most of the time. But with the right suggestions, you find that the person goes out the door and the next week they come in and they say, didn't even think about the chocolate. So it just takes the fight away, basically.
Okay. Somebody else asked, how long does it take for you to see results with hypnosis? Do you need a number of sessions, or can you be ready to rock and roll after a 1 hour session?
It usually takes about 6 sessions, but most people will see a change in behavior and thinking after the first session. It does take some kind of, it's like you're rewiring, and then you're reminding the brain and adding a little bit of information each time. So 4 to 6 sessions, probably 6 for most people. And it depends on what you want to achieve. For smoking, it'll be 1 session. For sport, usually 6, sometimes 4, depends on the person.
Okay. Don't forget, those of you who are joining us live tonight, that if you ask a question and we get to ask the question, you may be in the draw then for our fabulous gift set from Nuasan worth €80. I do see a question coming in there now. Very good question, actually. Is everyone able to have hypnosis? As all our brains are wired differently, so does it not work for certain personality types, or would different people have different reactions to it?
Well, different people do have different reactions, but all of us can be hypnotized if we want. There is a little bit of a challenge if your attention is not good, if your focus isn't good, because we need to narrow the attention at the beginning of the hypnosis session. That's the only difficulty. But other than that, you won't go into trance if you don't want to. So anybody can resist it, and you have all the power to resist it. Most people, my problem half the time is trying to get people to come out of trance because it's too nice. So.
Okay, very good question here coming in as well. Does it work with high levels of anxiety?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's very, very effective. Sometimes if people are on medication, however, the medication can interfere with the hypnosis. And it's very difficult even to know which medications. There's a few would have red flags about, but then I've been proven wrong. I would have said to somebody, don't come in because you're on this medication. And the same lady knew I was going to say that, so she didn't tell me about it. And she really improved. Her anxiety went way down. So, but in general, if you're not on medication, and it's very straightforward to deal with for most people.
Okay, we have another question there actually. How many sessions do you need to roughly do? So you've mentioned that already, but interestingly, what homework do you need to do to keep it up between the sessions, or maybe when you've gone through the course of 5 or 6 that you might need with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it depends on the person is the correct answer, really, because some people will come in once a year afterwards, and some people come in once a month. And I think what I've noticed is that the people who are really, really busy and a little bit maybe not disorganized, but they don't have time to be as organized as they want to be, they're the ones that come in more frequently. Whereas, you'd have people who you'd see once a year. And even one lady came in last year and we were both looking at each other and I said, you don't need to be here. Why are you here? Because she really didn't. She had been I had given her MP3s to listen to as part of the program, and she listened to them for the year. So she stayed on track,
So it's just like doing your homework. It's like sport. It's like exercise. You have to keep it up or you'll lose your fitness. Can hypnosis help with long-term pain?
Yes, it can help manage it. I wouldn't say it can get rid of some pain. For example, migraines, I find very easy to work with. with other types of pain, I would say it would help. It reduces activity in your sympathetic nervous system. So when your body's a little bit calmer, the pain can be less acute or less severe, and it helps people's mindset. So you feel like you can manage and you're more in control. But it's not a magic bullet, really.
Somebody else asks, you said if you believe in yourself, you can do it, but how do you start believing in yourself in the first place? And that's such a good question.
Great question. So just start with writing down a list of things that you're good at, and without any modesty, leave modesty at the door and write down, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, I'm good at this, and put it on a piece of paper, put it somewhere you'll see it every day. Because if you think about it, like marketing and advertising, we see the same message from marketing companies over and over. And if I asked anybody here, you know, if I ask you for the byline for Nike, I'm sure most people would know it. And that's because we're exposed to it over and over. So imagine if you do that for yourself, just market it to your own brain. Then in time, you'll see a change in your thinking. It sounds so simple. People sometimes neglect it, but it works.
Can I ask, from your own personal perspective, what attracted you to hypnosis, and where was the fascination for that? Where did that come from?
Well, I was actually working in a gym, Joanne, and teaching aerobics, and kind of probably burning the candle at both ends, and fell down the stairs and had to stay at home for 6 weeks. So thankfully the internet was around, new at the time, I think, but I started searching for tools, psychology tools for athletes, and found hypnosis, went to the States, did loads of training, and just never stopped. It was like a revelation, really. That's where I started. It wasn't planned, but
sometimes the best things never are, really, are they?
Never.
No, I'm going to keep you on camera there, but I want to bring in Dara from Nuasan as well, because we did have some questions for Dara, so we'll bring him on as well. You thought you were going to get off lightly, Dara, hiding in the background for the night. I promise they're not hard ones. So the first one is, you mentioned earlier that the company is sustainable. What does that mean?
Yeah, I saw that. So that's kind of the core of what we're doing. So first of all, they're natural. We're going with natural stuff. That's really important to us. We don't have any of the nasties that are in a lot of products. We all like our nearly all of our packaging is recycled. So that's the paper, the plastic in the bottles is made from recycled plastic. The paper is made from recycled paper. Our outer box and stuff is made from recycled paper. The office is wind powered. We don't have the non-recycling bin, so we just try and use everything up again. So we have like a compost bin and a normal recycling bin, and we have a system that kind of uses everything up. What else? I suppose the biggest thing is we give 10% of our profits to charities, particularly sustainable charities. So right now we're working with a group in Ghana who are they're empowering women to take up beekeeping, and they're so by them doing that, but they're teaching them how to do that, and then they go off to leave and do it on their own. But that gives them an income that they wouldn't normally have, so it allows them to put their kids through school and actually put their kids through college with it. So it's that's really nice to be making a difference.
And where did the idea for Nuasan come from?
Oh, it's a long story, but basically. I was traveling a lot. I did a lot of traveling, and then I sort of got into sports and stuff like that. And I was looking for products that did something, as opposed to like, the Adidas Sport or these sort of things were just their branding and a smell. And I wanted something that actually helped. And so eventually we developed the products. And it was really important, like I said, that we're all natural and that they were good. And there's something that I wanted to use myself, because there's so many things I wouldn't want to use. Yeah, that's how it evolved.
Okay, we have one particular question actually with regards to Nuasan products. And the question is, I do a lot of running and I'm frequently stiff, even though mentally I am prepared to go the next day, but the body recovery wise, I'm not 100%. Can Nuasan recommend anything for that? Well, I can 100% recommend the active CBD gel for that question, but Dara, you might have other plans.
Yeah, the CBD gel is really good, but whenever I use it sparingly. I use it when I'm using, like if I pull a muscle in my neck, or if I'm sore, like if I'm sore, particularly if I damage something or just stiff or whatever. But for just general running and that sort of stuff, the body wash and the moisturizers are excellent. They've got arsenic and magnesium in them, and they really help with just the sore and stiffness. It's kind of a funny. We found out how hard to market, because it's like you use it and then you forget about it, so it's hard to remember it did something. So you went in the shower stiff and you came out of it afterwards. Oh, I'm not stiff anymore, but you don't take notice of that. So that's what it does. It just basically takes the edge off. So it means you can go a bit further or whatever the next train the next day, and push yourself a bit harder if you want to as well.
Brilliant. I'm going to come back to you, Niamh, for one more question. Any simple tips to interrupt negative thoughts when training, especially coming close to the end of a training session when you're getting tired, e.g. using counting techniques as a distraction?
That's a good distraction, all right. Or prep beforehand rather than leaving it to the last minute. Or use the word stop if those thoughts are coming into your mind. Just stop and shout it in your mind. Preferably do all the work beforehand, though, before the race, and imagine the race going really, really smoothly for you. It was a race we were talking about, wasn't it?
Training or a race.
Training, yeah.
Probably similar.
So yeah, just keep saying to yourself, my legs are light, my body feels light, and really positive talk. And again, remember the exercise at the beginning. It just shows you how your physiology really reacts to your thoughts and your imagination. So keep it simple. Positive.
Somebody else asks, sorry, now it's just gone again. Oh, any cues for younger athletes to aid mindset? And obviously with exams and everything coming up now as well, aside from a sports psychology side of things, but to support them in exams and things like that. But even as young athletes, cues for them to support their mindset.
Well, if it's exams and things like that, well, sport is the obvious answer, I suppose, a distraction. And if you've been stressing about sport, then just get them involved in something else as well, like music or something that gives them an outlet where there's no demands on it, there's no pressure, and there's no expectations.
Okay, I have one more question. Could I have your thoughts on the sympathetic response and its influence on performance management? How can one coach to overcome this and ground for improvement? We coach to extend oneself. That might be a question for you to type in after, maybe Niamh, or I don't know, unless you want to answer it straight away.
Yeah, let me think about it. I'll have a look at it I'll have a look at it and afterwards, and I'll think about how best to answer it.
I'll keep a note of who asked the question, and maybe you can go back to them directly. I am conscious that we are coming up to just shy of 8:15, so I do want to bring Linda from Nuasan in onto the show as well, because Linda, you've been working behind the scenes and you've been watching all the questions. It's like getting the votes from the Eurovision Song Contest. Who is the winner of our Nuasan goodie gift pack?
Well, thanks so much, Niamh and Joanne. I really, really enjoyed that. And I think from all the questions that have been coming in, everyone else who has been listening has really enjoyed it too. So from my random generator machine, the name that clicked out was Jenny Hennessy. So Jenny, if you could send an email into us, info@nuasan.com, that's NUASAN, and just send us on your address and delivery phone number, and we'll get your prize out to you. But thank you so much for all the great questions. And as Joanne said, if we didn't get your questions, do send them on to the info@nuasan address as well, and we'll try to forward those on to Niamh.
And Linda, you might just remind us again about all your socials, where we can find you.
Yeah, so if you want to keep up to date on our next webinars and any special offers or giveaways that we'll be running, please do give us a follow on Instagram and Nuasan. You can search for @Nuasan__ for Instagram and Nuasan Active for Facebook. So yeah, we would really appreciate you following us there to keep up to date.
And of course, Linda, you're going to be traveling around the country over the next few weeks at lots of triathlon and cycling events. Tell us where we might expect to see you and sample some of the products.
So this weekend, if you're doing the Tour de Connemara cycle, I'll be there for the pack pickup at the start. And then if you're going to be at the La Couture Triathlon with you, Joanne, I'll be there too. We'll be at Triathlon the following weekend, and yeah, lots of other events, but I'm sure we'll keep you up to date on our socials of where we're going to be. And please do pop by to see us. We do giveaways on the day and special pricing as well.
And speaking of special pricing, don't forget to use that discount code for €10 off, Mind Dive. And I think Dara said it was valid until the 5th of June, so be sure to use it. I think that's it from us. A huge thank you to Dr. Niamh Flynn for joining us for the session, to Linda and Sveta for all the work behind the scenes, and of course to Dara for having us here as well tonight. I think that is it. We'll be in touch. Until the next time, take care, have fun, and keep on moving forward.